We now move on to cover the India and Australia turn in round number 2 here, Axis and Allies Pacific. To start this out, there's what we call the British convoy here. They're at 12 right now. Then we have 5 points there, 3 points down here, and 4 up here in the Indian Ocean. So to lose points there, Japan can take those over, but Japan does not gain any points from taking the convoy. The British player just loses points in there, and each turn at the beginning, whatever points they have at round 1, they have 12. They're divided up however you want to between India and Australia to use the purchase units in their turn. Since India is really hurting here down to 8 IPCs and Australia here is at 19, we're going to give them all the 12 IPCs to India to start their turn, because we see here that India is the one that's going to face an onslaught here, and this might also help them to help protect China, which we'll go over in the US turn. So we'll show you now what they're going to do in their turn here. So down under in Australia, we just move a lot of units up in the Queensland territory there from New Zealand also, and move them over there to help fend off a possible Japanese invasion. And we purchase a destroyer and submarine and place it in their industrial complex bay there in Sydney. And we just move a military infantry unit over into Java, and from India we take 2 and put them down in Sumatra to help take out any possible Japanese units that are going to invade those 2 islands in the next turn. The Japanese will likely take those islands, but hopefully they'll incur some losses. They move their naval units up here to defend the British convoy here in the Indian Ocean, and in India just move some more units into Burma, and we purchase another fighter, 2 infantry, and 2 artillery. Again, in this one, we're playing that each industrial complex can only put out the number of units that their territory is worth. So India can only put out 5, and New South Wales can only put out 5 units a turn, and same with Japan. They can only put out 5 units a turn to make this game just a little more realistic, I feel. So then at the end of the turn here, we see India. They only collect 8 IPCs, and Australia collects 19 IPCs. So we'll now move on to US and China's turn, round number 1. So we start round number 1 with the US turn here. You see I went and named all the aircraft carriers and battleships in this game. So we see here as from the west coast, the Enterprise and a bunch of other units just moving to Hawaii there. They're going to do battle with the submarines there, take them out. We see if the Japanese subs can roll anything. They don't roll any of 2 or less, so there's no US casualties in that battle. The 2 submarines are destroyed. And as far as down here, we see the Yorktown. They moved over here from these islands into the Coral Sea to join forces with the British here. And there we see what's, as far as the Japanese forces there, what their names ended up being there. And then we have a British force over here. So we'll move on to the second part of the US turn here, show you how China works out. So I'll show you in the game book here how China works in this game, and we'll see here at the end of round 1 with these rules. We put 3 Chinese infantry in their capital there because they control 2 territories right now, and the Burma Road is open. So if Japan doesn't occupy any part of the Burma Road here in red, Japan collects another infantry unit and places it there at the end of the turn. And as far as the US, we're probably going to put an industrial complex there. The US is the only one that can purchase industrial complexes in this game. So they can put 1 there and 1 in this territory if they choose to, but it can only produce 1 unit a turn. So a fighter would probably be a good thing we're going to put in there every turn. So we'll go ahead now and show you what the US is going to purchase in units to end round number 1. So with the US having 75 IPCs, we purchased an industrial complex and placed it over here in Chinese territory. That'll be allowed to put out one piece a turn, so we'll likely be putting one fighter out a turn to help support the battles over here. And over here in the Hawaiian Islands, again, we're just allowing two pieces a turn to be put out there. So we have the aircraft carrier Hornet and a fighter being placed there. And then the rest of the units here will place in the West Coast. So we have one fighter and two transports there. So that brings us up to the total amount we're allowed to spend. And let's see, we'll show you here a summary as we end round number 1 here, what the game board looks like. And we'll zoom out here and show you what the total view looks like of the game board. And we'll end this round number 1 here by showing you the IPC chart there. So I hope you enjoyed. Please stay tuned for round number 2. Hi everyone, welcome to Axis and Allies Pacific round number 2. So we'll start out with Japan's turn here. So attack A is going to be here at Midway. The fighters from their carriers there are going to follow how the battle for Midway started out, and they're going to attack the Midway Islands forces there for round number 2 to start out. And attack number B is going to happen down here in Java to hopefully take over that island there, gain 4 more IPCs. Attack number C is going to be on Sumatra. That'll put them 3 more IPCs up. Attack number D is going to have them occupying unoccupied Hong Kong to get 2 more IPCs there. Attack WE is going to be movement of troops into more further into Chinese territory there. And then attack number F is going to be a strategic bombing raid and dogfight on the U.S. industrial complex here at the Chinese center. The dogfight, that fighter for the U.S. will defend for 1 round at a 2 or less, and all these fighters here will attack at a 1 or less, and that'll be just a 1 round fight there. So we'll see how all this combat results out. So we now cover the end results of Japan's combat round number 2. For Midway attack, the fighter and infantry are taken out. 1 Japanese fighter is also lost in the battle there. We move down to the Indonesian islands here. Japan takes over Celebes, Java. Again, the units that are placed down on the board there are casualties in the battles. And they also take over Sumatra, and they take over Hong Kong. This attack number F for the strategic bombing raid is actually not going to happen, because reading in the book further, Japan cannot bomb that industrial complex, so we'll put that attack F on hold. If Japan does take over that industrial complex, the Allies can bomb it though, so that was in the rule book on page 20 if anyone cares to verify that. So that puts us at the end of Japan's combat turn. We'll move on to non-combat and placement units for Japan. For Japan's non-combat movements, A will be the transports that were in Dutch New Guinea. They're going to go to the Caroline over here on this island here, and we're going to put one over in Hong Kong. Movement B, a fighter here from the Carolines. They're going to fly over and go on the Hiru there to replace the 1 fighter unit that was lost in the Battle of Midway for the island there. Number C is just going to be from Malaya. The tank's going to go into French Indochina. And for D, the movement there is we're just going to take the bomber there and put it down into French Indochina there, kind of localize all the aircraft for Japan there, see what we want to do with them in future rounds. And then as far as victory points, Japan, we gained them 4 more points this round from their victories that they had. So that puts them up to 40 IPCs total. That gives them 4 victory points for the round. So that puts them up to 7 victory points here at the end of their turn in round number 2. I made a note there, for every 10 IPCs on Japan from a strategic bombing raid by the Allies. Japan does lose 1 victory point, so that'll be another way for Japan to lose victory points here. So, and as far as placing units, we bought 3 transports there, put them in the Sea of Japan along with an artillery, so that spends all of our money for Japan. And we collect their income of 40 IPCs, so that gives them 42 total IPCs there. So we move now on to the India and Australia turn in round number 2. Going on to the British turn in round number 2. Their attack A will be on the Celebes Islands here to go ahead and take control of that from their troops and naval units they had here off of Queensland. So they moved 2 units or 2 spaces over into that sea zone there. The naval units and fighters are going to attack the 3 lone Japanese transports there, and then those units for British, they'll load off the transports and attack the Japanese units there to now probably take the island over. And attack B is going to be British Indian troops from Burma are going to go into Chinese territory here and attack those 2 infantry that are in there. So we'll cover how these 2 battles pan out here. Down here, they're just going to keep in a defensive position here on the British convoy there, and perhaps the Japanese will end up attacking them in the next round. So the Australian troops do recapture Celebes, and the Indian troops do take over this Chinese territory there. So we clean up the board, and as far as purchasing units for the Indians side, we're able to purchase a tank, artillery, and 2 infantry to place in India. And down here in Australia, we purchase 2 transports, a tank, and an infantry down there in South Wales. And as far as income collected, then India will just collect 6 IPCs, and Australia will collect 12 IPCs. We now move on to the US turn in round number 2 here.